You guys need to turn your MacBooks or whatever you're on up all the way because we can barely hear you.
Mine is as loud as it goes.
Thank you.
So is mine.
Okay. Reagan, are you there?
I told her to get on, so, because I was watching the screen while I was talking to her on the phone.
Right. Can you put the volume all the way up for us? Did you turn it all the way up? The highest it will go.
Brian, if it's anything, I hear you just fine.
So do I.
I think it's just
It's
Melissa.
them.
It's their mask. It's hurting her hearing.
Courtney, are you on yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Trying to make sure he's not having trouble.
There's Kendall.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so we're missing Reagan and Courtney.
Reagan's here.
Reagan's here. Okay.
Kendall, I just want you to know this is Earl Grey tea.
Aw, that's good, Dan. I was worried because it sure looked like a big old glass of wine.
Here. Bottle.
Empty. That's all I see is that it's empty, Dan. I don't know what was in it beforehand.
I took the label off so I could refill it.
I also don't see Andrew, Melissa.
Right, I was just going to say Andrew as well.
I just talked to him. He's getting a sandwich.
Okay.
You might hear feedback from Natural Zoom. I don't know if that's going to throw you guys off or not, because you guys are probably watching on Facebook and it's a delay, right?
Yeah.
Hey, if I hang up or mute or whatever, it's because someone just walked in my office, but I'll join back.
Are we still waiting on Courtney, right?
He's here. He just joined.
I don't see Andrew yet.
I think that's why we're waiting on him.
And then we need Andrew.
Reagan's here.
Okay.
Reagan here is White girl.
I see the student ambassador.
Okay, and we've got Andrew.
Okay, sound like we have all seven, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The Board of Education has been in closed executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees in the public body, and discussion of collective negotiating matters between the board and representatives of employees. No action was taken during closed executive session. I would now ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our listening audience, because of the COVID-19 crisis and the governor's disaster declarations, this meeting is not fully open. A fully in-person meeting is not practical nor prudent because of COVID-19. Mindful of our rising Macon County COVID case numbers, the Board of Education elected this evening to participate via Zoom fully. So the Board of Education, some district leadership team members, student ambassadors, and our district's attorney are participating via Zoom. Do we have, Dr. Frigo, do we have a recommendation for tonight's agenda?
Yes, we do. I recommend the board approve tonight's October 27th, 2020 open session board meeting agenda as presented.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So the Board of Education has heard from the community quite a bit in the last 72 hours, really since Friday. As a result, we are making some changes to the order of the information that is presented this evening. We are moving public participation to the front of the agenda. We are returning it there from where it was previous to the shutdown when we adjusted the agenda to move it to the back of the agenda. This will be the agenda order going forward. We're moving it back to the front of the agenda so that public participation and input can be heard prior to any types of votes. So with that in mind, Ms. Bradford, do we have anyone wishing to address the board this evening?
Yes, we do. Ooh, thank you. I would like to call Christopher Shugart to the podium.
Okay, and as Mr. Shugart makes his way to the podium, I would like to note the following for public participation. You need to identify oneself and be brief. Any public comments received will be read during this time or presented in person, and comments should be limited to 3 minutes. For our listening audience, please note that during any Board of Education meeting and public participation, board members do not respond and/or comment to public comments. Furthermore, the board refrains from referring to specific students or staff members by name and requests that public commenters refrain from doing so as well. So with that, Mr. Shugart, if you could take the stand or take the podium.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board and Superintendent Frigo. My name is Christopher Shugart, and I am the second vice president of the Decatur Educators Association and a social studies teacher at Eisenhower High School. I don't think it's a controversial statement to say that there is a nationwide teacher shortage. We know something about the shortage of teachers in DPS. For the past 5 years, Decatur Public Schools have been running at a deficit of teachers, meaning every year we are not fully staffed. We are losing teachers faster than we can acquire them. How do we address this issue? Most would suggest that the best way to do this would be monetary incentives. This would normally be a solution. However, since the last contract negotiation, our bargaining team pushed Decatur to be as competitive as the surrounding districts, which, by the way, are not having the same severity of the shortage problem that we are seeing in DPS. Money isn't the solution. So what is causing the inability of the district to keep good teachers? I think the best way to answer this question is by looking at the strategic plan for the district. The strategic plan states that the strategy for staff is that district leadership will attempt to attract and retain talented and invested staff by ensuring they feel valued and supported. I'm going to repeat that, ensuring that they feel valued and supported. I think that this is probably the best step towards making sure that we can recruit but especially retain our teachers. If you need further proof, a study done in 2016 on the teacher shortage by the Learning Policy Institute found that administrative support is the factor most consistently associated with teachers' decisions to stay in or leave a school. So if this is an issue that the board has developed a solution for, even researchers studying this problem have said this solution would address it, why has it not worked in the 3 years that we began working on the strategic plan? In fact, it seems that our issue with the shortage of teachers has gotten worse. The short answer is the board and central administration have not taken their own advice. The toxic culture that's been allowed to putrefy and infect our teachers, and even our administrators, has caused a feeling of being undervalued and unsupported. Because of this, people will have and will leave the district, and they will go to other schools that actively recruit our teachers and administrators. We have some of the best teachers in Central Illinois. We keep teachers in the district by our district leadership showing teacher support, fostering an environment of respect, not only for students, but teachers as well, establishing channels of face-to-face communication so teachers can be heard and value that voice, and give ways to empower teachers to problem solve, to address the problems that they face in the classroom every day. These are the ways in which we dispel this toxic culture that has tainted our district and has pushed and will continue to push away people. And by the way, all of these things are free. Thank you.
Sam Mills.
Hello, my name is Sam Mills. I'm a teacher at EHS and I'm on the DEA leadership. And to be honest with you, I hate being here. I do not like to do things like this. When I have an issue with the district, I like to meet in private and talk. I like to bargain and I like to negotiate. I don't like airing grievances in public. Furthermore, I know some of you on the board personally, and I think you're good people. I think that you ran for the board with good intentions, and I'm sure that some of the things you're doing now for the district you think you're doing with the best of intentions. But there are people that are misleading you. You are the same people who wanted to listen to the public from the last board. Well, you need to listen to us now. Giving people bonuses for their jobs, just doing their jobs or going above and beyond is a bogus idea in education and does not motivate us. We don't function like a business, and we don't think tax dollars can be or should be spent like that. The leadership we're giving a bonus to, or at least talking about it, is punitive and creating a toxic culture for teaching and learning. The book Rise Above features the following advice from the current assistant superintendent. It states, just like with the students, unfortunately, sometimes you have to make an example of one, two, or some for everyone else to fall in line and take you seriously. Well, we started a discipline process for over 50 teachers for not posting midterms that the district's own handbook said would not be posted. Some of the meetings were for standards that the district's own pacing guide had incorrect standards listed for. How can we take that seriously? We did this in the midst of a severe teacher shortage, the second year of implementing standards-based grading, and during a time when we are all teaching in a way that we've never taught before. That's what we're giving bonuses for? That's what this board calls leadership? That's pitiful, and that needs to change, and shame on you. We need leadership that understands our weaknesses and works to move us forward in a collaborative and supportive way. We do this with our students. We admit our weaknesses and try to get them to see theirs so that we can grow together. We don't punish them and ridicule them when they have deficiencies to make an example out of them. Nobody takes that seriously. Yes, we need to move forward, but right now, the way things are going, this board and this administration are hindering that by being punitive and creating a toxic culture for teaching and learning. A toxic culture for teaching and learning. We are it. We're your army. Love us, and we will fight for you, and we will always fight for the students of Decatur. But we need you. We need the leadership, and we need the administration to give us their support and their guidance.
Dr. Janelle Norman.
Good evening. According to the Herald Review, let me back up. Good evening. I'm Dr. Janelle Norman, President of the NAACP. According to the Herald Review, the Governor of Illinois has employed residents to do all they can to stop the spread of COVID-19. Currently, Decatur School Board and administrators need to employ a call for a cease and desist of the madness, hate, racial inequality, racial tension, and the leaking of personnel matters over a bonus of $30,000. Make no mistake, a raise or a bonus of $30,000 is something to croak about. However, it is incumbent upon the superintendent to provide the rationale for the $30,000 bonus. And the school board is responsible to the public to justify your decisions. Frequently, the board votes on important matters without giving a rationale or even a tiny discussion before voting. Racial tensions are too high for the board to be silent on this issue. Why is there a ruckus over money to be paid to an administrator? Could it be because the administrator is an African American? Could it be that the school board has someone leaking personnel matters before the school board can even vote on such matters? The African American administrator has been thrown under the bus before you as board members have voted. The African American administrator has been crucified in public because the superintendent, who is making over $200,000, has remained publicly silent on a recommendation that is his duty to make to the board. In fact, the superintendent recommends all matters of personnel to the school board. When will the superintendent be held accountable for his recommendations? Why is the superintendent remaining silent and not defending his own recommendations? We understand that there is confidentiality that must be abided by. Perhaps that will happen tonight when the superintendent tells us more. Let's be clear, though, that anger and rage about the $30,000 bonus has been geared toward an assistant superintendent who is an African American. Is the backlash that has not been voted on yet being caused by the tenets of racism, racial inequality, or an unjustified recommendation coming from the superintendent? Tell us, school board, when will you speak to this controversial issue and speak truth to the taxpayers? The NAACP is requesting you as the school board to remedy this surreal fiasco. Thank you.
Katie Burns.
Good evening, I'm Katie Burns. The median salary for an assistant superintendent is $67,221 in Illinois. Nationwide, it is $76,291. Mr. Dace makes $156,715, which is actually surprisingly more than what he made in Chicago. Mr. Dace was given a failing grade at the end of January by the Decatur Education Association at not meeting the, quote, student performance and academic improvement goals. What has he done in 9 months from a failing grade to now warrant a $30,000 bonus? Nonstop, we hear how the district is in a deficit, like in the instances with DTFA, Macon County Piatt Special Ed Co-op, building improvements, and more, as we can simply look back at the prior meeting agendas and budget reports. Where did this sudden surplus come from? Could the surplus purchase better benefits or insurance for your staff, go towards your building improvement plans? As someone who is getting paid substantially over the Illinois national average, and given the needs of the students and facilities of our district, this is a little bit of a misuse of funds. Let's contribute to our students and not our pockets, please.
Ashley Smith.
Board, Dr. Frigo. My name is Ashley Smith, and I come to you tonight as a taxpayer and a special education teacher in the district. I started my career at Warrensburg Latham School District as a crosscat teacher. After 7 years in that district, I began to feel the pull of my heart to move into DPS. I wanted to work with our life skills population, but I also missed working with students from a more urban setting, much like I had worked with inner city students during my undergrad. Moving into Decatur was a great transition. I loved my job, I loved my school, which was TJ, And I even sold my home in the AO district to move into DPS because I wanted my tax dollars to support the district that I work for and also the district that my nephews attend. In all ways, I considered myself a DPS lifer. I was going to stick it out no matter what. I would retire from this district that I had grown to love. I work at Stephen Decatur Middle School. To say that last year was tough is an understatement. Our school was not supported in the struggles that we had with our verge. When colleagues discuss leaving the school or even the district, I often ask them, if not us, who? On hard days, when I too questioned my decision to stay in that building in this district, I would ask myself, if not me, then who? Who would love these kids the way that we do? Who would look out for them and advocate for them? Who will work hard to close the learning gap and not accept any excuses as to why a student isn't making progress, but instead problem solve those issues and remove those barriers? Who will step up and take an entire second full caseload of special education students so that they can be properly case managed in their building after numerous teachers have left? This is the story of many teachers in DPS, not just myself. They do whatever it takes to provide for their students with a quality education. Sadly, I don't know if I can continue to truly stick this out. For the first time in 8 years of working in this district, I have begun to consider other districts. I asked my fellow teachers in other districts about morale, about how their central office administrators treat them. Are they treated with respect for the many years of education and teaching experience that they bring to the table? Over and over they say yes. I cannot answer that question the same way. I do not feel respected by my central office administration or my board. I have watched as teachers are leaving this district because of this very issue. When will the administration and the board realize that we play for the same team? We want the same things. We teachers are realizing that this is not the norm, and it does not have to be this way. I hope this Board of Education and central office administrators realize that you employ some of the best teachers in the area before it's too late, and you have more certified staff positions filled by subs. Then the question will not be, if not us, then who? It will be, if not just who.
Tom Bella.
Good evening. My name is Tom Beller. I've been an educator in the district for 9.5 years. I'm the science department chair at Stephen Decatur Middle School. I feel compelled to speak tonight to address the inadequacies and indifference of this board and the district leadership. I'd like to ask you a question. How many teachers, assistants, and parents have you heard from in the past 18 months? Think about that. I'm just adding another voice to the ever-growing number. When will you begin to integrate teacher-led directives and collaboration into your decision-making process? Until teachers and assistants are treated with respect and valued by this board and district leadership, I think we'll continue to wait for Decatur Public Schools to become that destination district you keep telling us we're going to be. I mentioned earlier that I'm a science department chair. I'm currently the only certified science teacher in the department of 6 at our middle school. The department is made up of myself and 5 long-term subs. One of those positions is now being serviced by its 3rd guest teacher since the beginning of the school year. Oh, speaking of those guest positions, it is mind-blowing that these individuals have a salary that far exceeds my own. Another Band-Aid attempt by the district to secure supervision for vacant classrooms. Further, I do not know that I am eligible for a bonus, even though I've taken up the roles of mentor and support for these people. There should be no bonus paid to someone who's in charge of teaching and learning until the district has teachers. Well, I know Stephen Decatur is not the only school in crisis. It's the school I'm part of. For the past 2 years at SDMS, we have not had full staffing. Science teachers, math, ELA, or special ed. This means it is possible we will have freshmen who will begin next school year who have not had a certified teacher since elementary school. Recently, we've witnessed the district spend enormous sums of money on positions that don't directly affect our students. We're spending money on consultants, exorbitant salaries, and now bonuses. even adding unnecessary positions, none of which directly benefit our students. For all this impressive investment, something our teachers still desperately need is guidance, coaching, and support. All of which directly impact the students that were already being provided by our reading and instructional specialists. The rationale behind that move to eliminate those vital positions was so we could use those specialists to fill vacant classrooms throughout the district. Unfortunately, many of those highly skilled educators fled DPS based on the noxious actions of a district leadership and this board. These actions certainly sound like moves a destination district would make. Our DEA executive staff cannot even communicate with district leadership unless the district lawyer is present. Anyone who requires a lawyer present for communication with their teachers does not deserve a bonus. This is certainly a destination district for upper administration whose efforts and accomplishments are greatly rewarded, but not so much for parents, students.
Excuse me, that's time. Thank you very much.
Molly Miller.
Good evening, Board President Nolan, Superintendent Frigo, and board members. My name is Molly Miller, and I'm a proud Decatur public school teacher of 21 years. My current position is a cross-categorical special education teacher at American Dreamer STEM Academy. I absolutely love my students, my coworkers, and my administrators. I know that since I was a child that I wanted to be a special education teacher. I would watch as my classmates in special education classes were treated differently by teachers and classmates. This did not sit well for me, and I knew that I needed to become an advocate for those students that needed different supports. So I'm here today addressing this board regarding the potential separation of Macon-Pyatt Special Education District and Decatur Public Schools. I have a few questions I would like to ask the board to consider as they move forward with the separation. Has the school board considered what message you are sending to DPS students with IEPs and their families? Will this mean that DPS will take over the role of overseeing all aspects of special education, including finding students eligible for services, implementing and monitoring IEPs, and taking full responsibility for due process procedures? Is this board ready to take on the taxing responsibility of managing all the intricate details within the federally mandated special education laws? Are you prepared to lose valuable employees that your general education teachers and administration rely heavily upon for specialized instructional support? And lastly, do you want this board's legacy to be the board that dissolved a strong and positive partnership that has been in place since 1969? These are just a few questions that I want you to consider as you move forward with this process. Thank you.
Ron Nybarger.
My name is Ron Nybarger. I'm an ELA teacher at Eisenhower High School. I'm speaking today on behalf of myself and my wife, Hannah Nybarger, math teacher at Eisenhower High School. As elected public servants, administrators, and educators, why are we here? What is it we struggle and toil for? Is it for personal advancement or greed? If so, the benefit will be small, singular, and of this world alone. Is it for power or to look powerful among others? If so, power wanes daily and will soon be gone as nothing under the sun remains forever. Ask yourselves, why are you here? If your answer is anything less than for the education of children and the betterment of our city, then you're in misalignment. How is this noble cause accomplished? The answer surely is we work together to make a more perfect union, in which we show the public that we respect that what we are walking on is hallowed ground. The very foundational ground that they and their children, as well as some of us in this room, have learned and applied knowledge to the betterment of our city and ourselves. However, vanity has gotten in the way of progress, and personal agenda has stifled growth. Our future, our students' futures, and our city's future lies in the balance, and the scales of unity are being pulled down, weighed down by a heavy ego and a divisiveness that seeks only to destroy. Some have placed self-centeredness above the noble cause. Some have dedicated themselves to profit, prestige, and selfish behavior. Some use this city as a stepping stone. This is a fact. But, as always, there's good news and a simple plan. We lay the foundation in order to battle complex issues. This can be done through humility. We must see our profession as one of servitude, servants of the people, not tyrants of industry. We're not in business, we're in the profession of loving and educating people, and ourselves in the process. If we stumble, that's okay. We get up and sit at the table of brotherhood to fight another day. You can either leave here today and have the same divisive and vindictive climate that you're now mired in, or you can choose to see everyone with a blessing that they are and treat them respectively. So I come to you this evening with a simple request. Repent of vanity, drop your ego, swallow your pride, and come together for the benefit of all students in Decatur. We are not enemies. It's up to you. Let the wisdom of Proverbs 18:21 follow and guide us. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit.
Thank you, Ron. That's time.
Beth Williams.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Friedel. My name is Beth Williams. I have been teaching in the district at MacArthur since 2009. I have never taught in any other district or at any other school. I have never entertained going anywhere else. I love my job, I love my students, and I love my building. Or so I thought. Over the past year, my love of my job is dwindling. I catch myself looking at other careers and imagining what it would be like to do that for a living. The environment that the board and the district leadership has created is toxic. Teachers are fleeing our district. What does that say to the students? Does it say to them, I am valued? I think not. Since March, I have had to change the way I teach. It has been a steep learning curve, but one that I have embraced. Instead of being met with grace and understanding, teachers in this district have been met with unrealistic expectations and criticism from leadership. From wanting teachers to assess students they've never seen, to wanting teachers to rigidly adhere to pacing guides that were created for full in-person schedules, it is unrealistic and disheartening. After long, drawn-out contract negotiations with the TAs, where you made it clear that there was no money available to have affordable health care for them, I am confused as to why the district has money available for bonuses and consultants. The students are watching. Your staff is watching. The community is watching. What message are you communicating? From where I'm standing, this isn't a destination district, it is a point of departure. Thank you for your time.
Sarah Bryce.
Good evening, I'm Sarah Bryce. I've taught many of Decatur's youngest learners for the past 15 years. I know the majority of you. I was there when you ran for election. I supported you. I put signs in my yard. I walked door to door for you. I gave you money. I ate your pancakes and chili and then worked out alongside you, burning off those calories. I congratulated you on election night. This district needed direction. It needed a 5-year plan. We needed improvements to our buildings and effective curriculum in all buildings. I appreciate the efforts you've made in all these areas. I work in a beautiful building now whose outside beauty matches the inside beauty of the program it contains. You made this happen. When you were elected, you told me you needed my help, my expertise. We were going to make these changes together. What has happened? I've taken every survey, joined committees, and participated in every meeting I was invited to attend. Remember when you came to the IEA office and spoke to association reps? We had such great plans. You were all the new hope. You accepted our campaign contributions, and now you won't speak to DEA without the district's attorney present. Why? What has happened? I watch almost every board meeting. I continue to see an all-knowing board who doesn't listen to outside input and fails in transparency. I'm here to ask why you don't need teachers, the DEA, or teaching assistants, even building level administration. I don't understand this direction. Help me understand. I'll listen. In my heart, I hurt. I see teachers hurt, and it's getting harder and harder to put on a face for students. Somehow teachers lost our voice, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to remind you of a teacher shortage. I'm here to remind you that our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. I'm here to remind you that when DEA has a need, it is important. It affects how we perform our jobs. When you don't speak or listen to DEA, you aren't listening to teachers. I'm asking all of you, start talking to teachers, communities, the community members, the DEA. Host a town hall. Educate us on your vision. I appreciate that you move public participation to its rightful place on the agenda. End your time on the board by showing us you are here to do those things you promised to do with us, the teachers, the DEA, the community members, and students. Thank you.
Carol Ellis.
Good evening. My name is Carol Ellis. I retired from DPS 61 in 2017, and I have been a guest teacher ever since. I've been teaching long-term all of 2020, either in a classroom or remotely. During this time, I've been in 3 different classrooms. Currently, I am teaching remotely in a long-term position. I've got to tell you, you have to understand, this is the hardest thing I have ever done. These kids haven't been in a classroom since March of last year, yet DPS is carrying on like things are normal. You have already heard about the whole report card reprimand fiasco. These types of threats are leadership at its worst, a blow to teachers. Every email opened brings stress. It could be another mandate from central administration with a threat included. Another blow to teachers. You probably already know about the directive from the assistant superintendent to have classrooms ready for walkthroughs. Another blow to teachers. They had to take time away from their remote responsibilities to put up bulletin boards and organize the classroom for kids who weren't even present. Lots of blows to teachers. That seems to be the goal of this administration. What teachers need is for central administration to ask, how are you? What do you need? What do your students need? How can we make this better for you and your students? I'm so discouraged by the disconnect between teachers and central administration. There's such a culture of intimidation and fear. Teachers are leaving the district because of how they are being treated. Is this best for students? Now we hear that the assistant superintendent is getting a huge bonus. And we hear that we will be given the rubric that will justify this bonus during this school board meeting. I wonder, does this rubric include providing leadership during a very difficult time for all? Does it include inspiring others? Does it include creating a collaborative environment? If so, and I'm sure others here would agree, he doesn't meet that criteria. I do want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with students that I've been blessed to get to know this first quarter. Even though I have only known them on a MacBook screen, they're in my heart. I wish the best for them. I just wish you all felt the same. I'm just afraid that you are all so preoccupied with bold plans, reprimanding teachers, and giving huge bonuses for creating a climate of distrust. So please, moving forward, listen. Remember, these aren't normal times, and this isn't normal school. Help us help kids.
Sonia Long.
Good evening, board members and superintendents. My name is Sonia Long, and I am currently a third grade teacher at Dennis Mosaic. I began teaching for DPS in 1983, and I will retire at the end of this school year. In all those years, I have ridden the innumerable swings of the pendulum in education. I've lived through 2 strikes, and I've seen district leadership come and go. However, through all of my years with this district, I have never seen the focus so misguided and teachers so distrusted, so micromanaged and mismanaged. Recently, several of my peers received letters questioning how they marked the midterm reports for students. Concerns about this were handled and addressed at the last board meeting, and while this has already been discussed at great length, we still need to address the situation because second quarter midterms are right around the corner and we will be facing the same dilemma. The bottom line with this issue is that an administrator is asking teachers and principals to behave unethically. To mark a report card with a 1 rather than an X when a standard has not been taught yet is lying. To give a student a 1 even though he or she never submitted any work for a quarter is lying. To say a midterm that the mark of an X is unacceptable shows no understanding of how SBG really works. All standards for a specific quarter cannot and should not be taught before midterm. Some of those standards were aligned to lessons that were scheduled to happen in the second half of the quarter. An X is absolutely acceptable at midterm. Furthermore, even at the end of the first quarter, given the reduced instructional time, unrealistic expectations of pacing guide, and remote learning circumstances. As a parent, I would prefer that a teacher simply state, time didn't allow for that standard yet, rather than lie to me and say my child is working below grade level and therefore received a 1. Kudos to the principals who have backed their teachers and did not endorse this unethical behavior. It begs the question, does this unethical behavior deserve a bonus? As teachers discovered that a huge financial bonus is being considered for an administrator who has not even been here a full 2 years, more red flags flared up. What does this say to teachers who have spent their entire career serving and sacrificing for children of this community? What efforts and accomplishments are you rewarding? Every single teacher has put forth effort and accomplished things way beyond the realm of normal during this remote learning situation. What is this bonus really for? If it is because of student growth and achievement, how ridiculous it is that an administrator should receive a bonus for hours of instruction that teachers spent working directly with students to meet goals. Additionally, board, let's please be very careful about getting too fixated on test scores. Those are only weak representative numbers of what students have actually learned. You are opening a Pandora's box when you begin to give bonuses to anyone for student scores. These are only 2 of the many issues that point to a larger problem that plague our district now.
Next
Please.
time, thank you.
Holly Pepper?
Good evening. My name is Holly Pecker. I have been employed by the district for 20 years. I grew up in Decatur, graduated from DPS, and attended Millikan University. I live in the district. My child attends DPS. I'm proud of Decatur and the people who live here. I have met some pretty amazing and hardworking educators in my time with DPS. I love the kids I teach, I love the teachers, and I love what I do. But what I don't love is how the teachers have been treated and continue to be treated. It's become especially clear during this pandemic how central admin and the board feel about their frontline workers. With directives changing daily, to no PD on apps we use for our children, to how the district has responded to the COVID cases with teachers, and now the 30+ teachers who received discipline letters for following the standards-based handbook, pages 5 and 15 in regards to X's. I listened to the last board meeting, and I couldn't believe what Mr. Dace was saying when he addressed the elephant in the room with teachers choosing not to assess kids. It's not true, and especially when he said that teachers can't be taking a backseat in these children's lives. What evidence does he have that we have been taking a backseat? Because I asked around, and I couldn't find a single teacher taking a backseat to our children's education. In fact, I reached out and found many teachers at all levels are doing more and more to keep kids coming back to their live sessions. So for example, we have Fun Fridays, Wacky Wednesdays, science projects on Fridays, music to start the Google Meet session, live guests from firefighters, police officers, community members, and leaders, virtual field trips, Go Noodle brain breaks, dance breaks, Happy Meal deliveries for good behavior or finishing work, lunch with the teacher, where they can eat on Google Meets with their teacher, free time with their teacher, where their teacher is giving up their planned time just to do this, delivering packets and books and hands-on materials sometimes every 2 weeks just to check in with their kids, pumpkin deliveries, scavenger hunts, Mindfulness Wednesdays, Think Happy, Be Happy Thursdays, Friendship Fridays, ticket drawings for a lunch delivery of their choice, treasure box bags that are delivered to their houses, mailed surprises for attendance goals, personal video message and phone calls, and those are just a few. If you believe that we are taking a backseat to our children's education, then you are so very wrong. In fact, we are in the driver's seat without our seatbelts, without airbags, smoke coming from the hood, tank on E, cracked window shield going 75 miles an hour down the highway in the pouring rain, with our central admin in the back seat, eating popcorn, watching a movie on their phone. Maybe you should use that $30,000 bonus to fuel these teachers in the driver's seat.
Dear Decatur Public School Board, DPS 61 admin and guests. First, I want to thank the teachers of my students for all they are doing to teach in this trying time. You are superstars in my book. Second, I want to thank Dr. Frigo for taking time to speak with me last week after the board meeting. Your body language at the meeting and our phone call shows me that you have the best interests of our kids. We are lucky to have you. Third, I am appalled that on the agenda tonight is a bonus or rate increase for Mr. Dace. Here is some food for thought to the board and administration. The dirty laundry of the district was put on public display at the last board meeting by its teachers. It was shocking. They spoke to the toxic culture, which is responsibility of Mr. Dace per his contract in Section 6, Paragraph B. This would not be passing grade. To get bonus, if Mr. Dace needs a rate adjustment to be competitive with his peers, that is understandable, to keep talent in comparable comps. However, the time is bad and makes the board look tone deaf. There are multiple ways and creative ways to do payroll compensation. If your HR team does not know how to do that, I know some consultants you should reach out to. Did Mr. Dace have another offer and this was a tool to keep him? That I do not know because there is no explanation as I'm writing this letter. If that is the case, is he really invested in staying in our community, or is this a pit stop in his career? More transparency would be helpful. I hope that there is a way for the community, the board, admin, and the teachers to unite so we represent the best of our community to our children. However, what I have seen lately looks just as ugly as what is coming out of Washington. We can do better, Decatur. It will take us all to listen, offer grace, patience, and empathy. If you are saying to yourself someone else needs to do that, you are the problem. We all need to do this. Thank you, Melissa, for reading this as fast as you can. So it's warm regards, and Amy Frazier. Becca Novak. Good evening. My name is Becca Novak, and I've been teaching with DPS since 2010. I have rewritten this letter multiple times because I have so much to say, and I am already saddened by how effective my words will probably be. It is my hope that at least a few of you will listen. I remember sitting in meetings with some of you many years ago, listening to your vision of what could be for your children, listening while you questioned why the board would stand in the way of what is best for our kids, families, and teachers. But here we are. I don't think the teachers and families of the district have lost sight of the end game. We still want to give our students the best education available. From where I stand, you've lost your vision. For personal gain, you worry more about how things look. Personal relationships cloud judgment, and the line pockets of those closest to the power. The vision of Destination District has resulted in a district that is purging staff and students at an alarming rate. We pour money on outsiders that couldn't tell you what really encourages a kindergartner to learn or a fifth grader to engage with their teacher. I appreciate the behind-the-scenes work that some of you tell me you are doing, but the time has come for action. Will you let one or two in your midst send an entire district down the drain? Will you throw away our kids' future? When will the toxicity and the vertigo be checked? Have you forgotten how to walk to school? We are still here waiting to partner with you. The teachers of this district still want to work with you. Will you join us? Will you save our district, our schools, and most importantly, our students? Because if this continues, who will be left? Back and go back. Dear Board of Education members and Superintendent Frigo, I'm writing this as a retired DPS teacher, former DPS parent, and grandparent, mother of current DPS teacher. DPS had been a positive place to work and learn. Teachers in my era were in education for a career, not just a job. We tried to do the best for our children to make learning a positive experience. In this current situation, the teachers are working under unimaginable circumstances and still trying to make learning a positive experience. The biggest difference is the Central Office Administration and Board of Ed guidelines change on an almost daily basis, with little forewarning or explanation. Most of the time, there is a little to do with what's best for children. The school board does not relate to the people in the district that are doing the actual work. They are much more concerned with their appearances and adding more administrators. For example, they drop jobs, put those teachers back in the classroom, then set out to hire people with almost identical requirements. Not a smart move. Jeff Davis is getting a $30,000 bonus. For what? He has no rapport with the teachers, never a good job, or even smile. His attitude has caused a hostile work environment. Has he even tried to work on any issues that were presented to the board as concerns for extending his contract? This bonus will go along with paying the salary of a new teacher or several TAs, which actually benefit the children in a positive way. The direction this district is heading just makes me sick. The board and central administration needs to be spending time on promoting their teachers, not fulfilling their own issues. The community needs to do some fact-finding meetings of their own, and these two are long overdue. I also question why we only hear from board and Mr. Dace. Where is Dr. Frigo in all of this? I understand what Mr. Dace's job entails, but there needs to be some checks and balances. Bonnie Metcalf. My name is Carla Berger. I'm a retired district employee who worked in the business office for over 37 years. At the October 13th board meeting, the board approved bonus compensation for 4 principals and 2 support staff members totaling $6,940. On the agenda for tonight's board meeting, the board was asked to approve a bonus compensation for Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning for the amount of $30,000. In the minutes of the October 13th board meeting, it was noted that the board discussed and created the Administrators and Administrative Support Bonus Pool in 2019. It is also noted that Jeff Dace, the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, was given the task to develop the framework and implementation of this bonus pool. Tonight, the board was asked to approve a bonus to the employee they assigned to implement this bonus pool. Does this not make you feel a little uncomfortable? The salaries and benefit compensation for FY 2020 for 5 of these employees receiving bonus compensations is listed on the district's website. The base salaries range from $80,000 to $133,000. Mr. Dace's contract states 2020 and 2021 base salary is over $156,000. In addition to their base salary, each of these employees receive a generous benefit package from the district. A large portion of their health insurance premiums are paid by the district. They receive paid vacation and sick days each year. Those that work year-round have 15 paid holidays off from work. They are all well compensated by the district. Is this not enough for them to do the job that they were hired to do? Why is a bonus necessary? I have many questions about this bonus pool. Were the details of the final plan presented to and approved by the board and to the public? Who submits names for this consideration to be considered? What is the criteria used to determine if a bonus is approved and for what amount? What makes a decision? Are details about the bonus pool available to the public? Some people will ask if all district employees will be able to receive bonuses. I would like to ask that the 6 or 7 bonuses that have been approved by the board be retracted and this bonus pool be abolished. No disrespect to the employees already approved for bonuses, but this seems like a way to give district favorites to favored employees something extra. This is not a good thing for employee morale. It is also not an ethical or responsible way for the district to spend taxpayer dollars. That should be used for the students of the district. Thank you for allowing Ms. Bradford to read the public comments. Latrice Weathers. Greetings, Secretary Bradford. After parent-teacher conferences on Tuesday, October 20th, the following 2 parents, both are included and CC'd in this email, asked for their concerns to be shared at the upcoming board meeting. Courtney Hayes. I have 4 kids, preschool, 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 9th graders. We are struggling. There is too much schoolwork being given to the students. I had to take a leave from work to help them, and yet and still the amount of schoolwork is overwhelming. I have spoken with other parents from various backgrounds, and we have similar results. Please advise as to your plan for helping our children succeed. Regina Turner. I have 6 kids, ages kindergarten, 1st grade, 2 3rd graders, 6th grade, and 9th grade. I quit my job to help my children with their schoolwork because it was too much and too tiring. I feel as though I'm in school for each of these grades because in order for them to understand, I have to sit with them. We have trouble with the Wi-Fi and iPads on a regular basis, and the work continues to pile up. We are in over our heads. How will you make sure all the school children struggling will not continue? Decatur Board of Education members and Superintendent Frigo. This is from Emily Inlow. I'm writing to you as a concerned resident and taxpayer of Decatur Public School District 61. I am also an educator, and I am well aware of the needs to raise student performance within our schools. Awarding a bonus of this size to a central office administrator who does not have direct daily contact is not an efficient use of district funds. Student performance is most impacted by the people who have direct daily contact with students, this being teachers, teaching assistants, and parents. This amount of money could be used to hire additional staff, such as 1 full-time and 1 part-time teaching assistant, or even the majority of the first-year teacher's salary. These positions actually impact students' achievement and progress and should be your first priority if there are extra funds to be allocated. Extra funds should not be used to line the pockets of central office administrators. This is a public school district, not a business, and tax dollars must be spent wisely where it counts. Additionally, this coronavirus pandemic continues to impact the daily lives of our students and community. The school district does not know what the true cost of the coronavirus will have on the district. The cost of the cleaning and sanitizing of buildings, as well as the impact of future tax dollars and even state aid, are just a few things to be considered when budgeting district funds. During these unprecedented times, it is crucial for the district to be physically responsible and not hand out outrageous bonuses. I think it is also necessary to remind the school board that your very own teachers union, the DEA, has already made it clear earlier that this year that Mr. Jeff Dace has replaced a collaborative relationship with the school district with one of the distrust, rancor, and frankly a downturn in student performance. This is not a performance that should be rewarded. Please be reminded that the working conditions of the teachers are learning conditions of your students. The students of Decatur Public Schools deserve better. Please consider this bonus for Mr. Dace and put the money towards the children and their instruction. For they are our most valuable resources. Emily Inlow. John Boleen. Superintendent Frigo, President Nolan, members of the board. As a taxpayer, I was confused by the board awarding a 5-year contract extension to Assistant Superintendent Jeff Dace. He was hired in April 2019 and had less than a year in the position with a person learning before the pandemic struck. The district is in disarray with pacing guides that are designed for in-person learning that are being enforced for virtual learning for classes that are shorter duration than the in-person classes. Teachers are being told and some reprimanded for using X's for modules that cannot be accessed, which is what the guidelines told them to do. And now I hear that the Assistant Superintendent Jeff Dace is getting a $30,000 bonus on top of 5-year contract extension when the only thing it appears to the public he has accomplished in 18 months is to help turn the district into a toxic working environment. Perhaps that $30,000 will be better spent getting pacing guides that match the current environment and saving all the money used for the district, lawyer, and consultants by having an open conversation about what is working, what is not, and not punishing those in the trenches for doing all they can in a situation where the goals, materials, and changing requirements are a recipe for disaster. None of this spending helps the students learn. Bonuses of any kind should not be given when a business of any kind, including the school district, is operating at a deficit. Even if that deficit is $19.7 million balance versus the funding balance of $25.5 million as required by the state of Illinois, as reported August 19, 2020 by the Herald and Review. It is time for the board to listen to the voices of parents, teachers, and taxpayers. Your email addresses say we care. I hope you do. Dear Decatur School Board, I understand you have an agenda item for the board to vote on at the next board meeting having to do with $30,000 pay increase for Mr. Dace. please consider dropping this agenda item from your meeting. It is not the right time for such a consideration or vote. Kathleen Owen. Lillian Knoll. Dear School Board, my name is Lily Knoll and I'm a junior on the MacArthur girls basketball team. I am writing on behalf of the team and other students from MacArthur. We all feel like we need to have a choice on whether we attend in-person learning. We know that many other surrounding districts are attending school in person and thriving within their community, surrounding towns and other states. We also know that we are in the middle of a pandemic, but we all believe that in-person learning is better. But also we have to think of our future. Most of us are relying on scholarships via sports or academics as means to go to college. Many are wondering if we will be behind for college academically. All students are reliant on technology and the internet for their education, and remote learning is not the same as having a teacher in the room with you guiding the instruction. Looking at a computer screen for hours is not the best way for us to learn. Many of us are going through a difficult time. Some have lost loved ones, friends, and coaches, as I did, Coach Dove. Several students are struggling socially and emotionally as the lack of human interaction we all need to succeed. All of us are being robbed of our high school memories. 20 years from now, there will be no yearbook pictures of students, student activities, athletic events, only memories of fear and COVID. We'll be missing out on prom, homecoming, football, and other sporting events. Memories are something you can't just replace. Many are not getting the food they need and safe environment that a school building provides. We know this might cause anxiety, but we need to try. How do we know what will happen if we don't give it a chance? School is essential. Being in-person will enrich our learning capabilities. It is a parent's responsibility to keep us safe and healthy. They make decisions every day for us. As a school, you are taking the choice not only from them, but from us too. And this is signed by signature of 36 students: Brylan Phillips, Quay Smith, Nick Spanis, Eric Livingston, Karen Shelley, Caleb Patton, Cam Taylor, Makai Phillips, Ryan Bartley, Jabron Anderson, Chase Cunningham, Hayden Wilkins, Zay Young, Omarion Slaw, Trent Horn, Amari Walker, Kane Radley, Ethan Baton, Carson Williams, Carlos Brown, Kaylin Young, Levi Lindsay, Cameron Lee, Glenn Millsap, Willie Cox, Joshua Young, Deshaun Boyd, and the girls basketball. Good evening. My name is Mary Leonard, and previous to this year, I have had 4 students in DPS 61. This year, I've had 1 student at Montessori Academy for Peace, but in the past years, we have had students at Pershing Early Learning Center and Parsons. We purposely chose to live in Decatur city limits and send our children to DPS. We want to see the best for our public schools and for our community. Also, I have subbed in DPS for the past several years. All this to say, we have a personal stake in what happens in the district. I'm writing for several reasons. First, I would like to thank our teachers and the staff at each of the schools. At the last board meeting, they were treated harshly. These professionals have worked above and beyond during the pandemic to provide quality education for our district. They deserve our respect and appreciation, not public humiliation. The way that our teachers, paraprofessionals, and others who work in our schools matters. We are currently experiencing a teacher shortage. It's a time to pour resources into training and providing incentives to retain our staff, not to treat them poorly. We have some phenomenal teachers. As a parent, I am proud of the teachers that we have in our district. Secondly, the bonus for Mr. Day seems tone deaf, especially after the last board meeting. From what I understand, the money was previously allocated in the budget for this bonus, but now seems like the wrong time to be handing out $30,000 bonuses. School budgets are being cut, schools are underfunded, teachers are not being paid what they are truly worth. Our community is suffering from months of pandemic. A large portion of the families in our district are considered low income, and through the district's bold plan, lots of money is already being spent to update, consolidate, and build new school buildings. Mr. Dace already makes a considerable salary, especially in comparison to what many of the taxpayers in Decatur make. I would urge you to consider these factors before your vote to give him a $30,000 bonus. Lastly, I will implore the school board to listen to families in the district. I deeply care about our schools and community. As different issues arise, please take time to listen to the voices from the community that you represent. Please act according to what is best interest of the students, the teachers, and the staff. True leadership is humble and seeks what is best for the people that they serve. Please take resources from the top of the administration pyramid and put them back into schools, where staff are working directly with students. One of the key ways to improve student test scores is to add personnel back into our schools, whether they be more teachers, more paraprofessionals, reading specialists, instructional coaches, etc. The number of adults working in each classroom has a direct impact on how much learning that can take place. Our teachers need support, not reprimanded. Their jobs are already difficult as a parent. I want to see them to get the support that they need so that they can be the best teachers that they can be. I want to see both our students and teachers be supported and successful. Thank you for taking the time to listen. It is appreciated. Mary Leonard. Mark Piesky. My name is Mark Piesky, 851 South Cedar Hill Drive, Decatur, Illinois, a 47-year-old resident of DPS. My wife and I are parents of 2 adult children who are graduates of DPS. Since I'm writing this prior to the vote, and this is being read after the vote, I'm writing this in response to the Board of Education consideration of giving a $30,000 bonus to Assistant Superintendent Jeff Days. I ask you to vote no regarding the bonus for Jeff's efforts and accomplishments for FY 2020. Jeff's salary is approximately $157,000, and his salary covers those efforts he is supposed to be making. Also, a bonus is not necessary because he and other administrators are already getting paid for what they are hired to accomplish. Jeff has demonstrated that he is impossible to work with and is micromanager and dictator based on my discussions with current and retired staff members. Jeff has recently bashed teachers and issued disciplinary letters. Under the current leadership, DPS is a toxic teaching environment. Teachers and administrators are wanting to leave, and many of them are our best employees. Also, the teacher union previously asked that Jeff not be given a 5-year extension to his contract, which you ignored. We should all remember that Jeff has only been an employee of the district for 16 months. Regarding this proposed bonus, no metrics or specifics have been provided. Just to give them a pat on the back while teachers, students, and families are struggling to stay afloat during the COVID environment does not make sense. Finally, there is a conflict of interest between Jeff and members or a member of the Board of Education. This is well known among community members and definitely does not add to the professional and educational vision of DPS 16. Melanie Ishmael. I come to this board asking that the people of Decatur voices be heard. This board has not represented me and my son. In fact, last year at this time, he was locked out of the school for 3 days. This violated his rights to a free and appropriate education. Then this year, the board has decided to pull out as the physical agent of Macon County Special Ed. Why? Because this board feels their votes should count for 2 of the other communities. I continue to be saddened by the board's clear dismissal of its special education population. It's been said that these kids don't help the numbers. If this board actually knew these kids, they would see that many of these kids more than help the numbers. This board does not represent me, and I highly doubt that this letter will change that. I do believe one day this board will look back and regret their 7-0 vote. Just a reminder that a job of the school board is to make sure all of the children receive a quality education. Melanie Bishop. I'm Rob Cook. I am a DPS parent who had growing concerns about my school district over the last year. I was saddened about the impasse between the board and the teaching assistants and felt it was not well done. I was puzzled by the decision to grant a 5-year extension to an administrative employee with 16 months left in an initial contract. I don't understand why that step is necessary. It seems to be the point of an initial 2-year contract is to afford ample time to properly assess one performance before offering an extension. For the record, I've been equally perplexed by the decision to terminate someone after eight months, save an egregious scandal. More recently, I've been disheartened by the treatment of our teaching staff during the pandemic over grading reports. I feel that one of the greatest threats to the district is the lack of teachers, and this kind of behavior does not seem likely to welcome many in. The teachers who are working with my kids are doing a commendable job in a very difficult situation. I marveled last week as my 4th grade teachers acted as an IT specialist as she coached 9-year-olds to correct their blurry screens. I place tremendous currency on academics, but I understand that there are many other lessons life has to offer us. Right now, the use of empathy and understanding in trying times is a lesson. I hope my kids will learn during this pandemic. But I'm not sure that lessons was well modeled by DPS administration in this case. And now I am stunned by the decision to offer a $30,000 bonus to an administrator during the pandemic. On a global level, a bonus like this makes no sense to me. There will certainly be financial ramifications from the pandemic that will need to be prepared for, even in a district that isn't undergoing vast building projects. As a frontline healthcare worker, I feel I have gone above and beyond this year to do my job during changing, difficult, and stressful conditions. Although I could probably make the argument that I deserve a bonus for the work I have done, I understand none will be forthcoming because the future financial health of all businesses are tenuous right now. I can only hope that this board will arrive at the same conclusion. The administrator's contract is stated to be performance-based, linked to student performance and academic improvement of the district. As stated, these include A, foster academic achievement among all learners, B, establish a collaborative culture district-wide that improves the climate for learning in all schools, and C, align organizational structure and resources to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and the financial health of the school district. How are these being met? Have academic achievement goals been met? Are students passing? Are they even logging on? Teachers' morale is low and teacher vacancies remain. Is this an ideal culture for learning? Will this bonus serve the financial interests of the district? Rob Cook. Sam Eagle, DPS board members. I, like many other citizens, are confused about an item on today's board agenda. Assistant Superintendent Jeff Dace is scheduled to receive an enormous bonus of $30,000, but no criteria has been released regarding how such a bonus was earned. We have all heard repeatedly about budget issues and that schools and teachers cannot get needed resources because of lack of money. I personally have not been happy with Mr. Dace's performance and don't appreciate his obvious contempt for the Montessori program. The Fast Bridge assessment tool he brought in is not an accurate way to assess the student's learning. I was dissatisfied that his contract was extended before he was even due for a renewal. And I am really frustrated that he's being given an extra $30,000 for no reason. Please be more transparent with the citizens you represent and serve. Please do not vote to approve this bonus tonight. Sam Eagle. Last one. Sue Smeltzer. Members of the Board of Education. My name is Sue Smeltzer. I attended Decatur schools, taught in both Decatur and Macon Prairie Special Education District, and now a retired tax-paying citizen of the city. As such, I have to say, it is my understanding that this correspondence won't be read until all business of the board has been concluded. I still feel it's important that you know that the level of distrust and distaste you have created throughout the community, specifically the relationship to tax money being given as a performance bonus to Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning Jeff Dace. We deserve better accountability than your recent decisions have provided. Our strategic plan mission states it is the ultimate goal to create learning experiences distinguished by a culture of diversity, adaptability, and resilience, meaningful and lasting relationships, extraordinary school and community connections. Those goals can be attained if they are applied to every employee in the district as well as the students. You are failing to meet even the bare minimum standards for these goals when the efforts of classroom teachers to provide the finest available instruction and guidance are undermined by an administrator to whom you have now chosen to give a bonus equal to approximately 20% of his salary. You are sending this message that it is permissible to create division and unrest by blaming others. That in trying times, resilience means attacking those on the front lines of making necessary adaptations. That meaningful and lasting relationships with teachers are a priority. You are not only failing our teachers, you have failed and continue to fail all of those who care about the future of District 61. We cannot be a destination district when teachers are leaving and new teachers are refusing to come here. Teaching in itself is a small community. It is well known throughout the state, including the schools of education and our colleges and universities, that teachers are not valued in Decatur. The vacancies you haven't been able to fill over the last several years will be minor to what is coming. Also from the district website, among the Board of Education core value is collaborate. As a board and as an administration, you need to put the core value into practice in meaningful and easily observable ways. Sue Smeltzer. President Nolan.
Melissa, we appreciate your efforts on that. And I appreciate the audience front end of this. I know that we had a shift in the agenda, but it was clear that you needed your voices heard prior to this vote, so we did that. Moving on to board and other committee reports. Do we have any board members wishing to report on their committees this evening? Okay. Student ambassadors, do you have any reports to give us this evening?
The student ambassadors have nothing to report tonight.
Okay, all right, we'll look forward to hearing from you next week then. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we are going to jump into our board discussion this evening. So prior to this weekend, we had anticipated spending the bulk of our time for this meeting discussing the resolution on racism, which the board has spent an enormous amount of time cultivating and developing over the last couple of months in conjunction with some of our staff members and community members. Given the public discourse over some of the agenda items, we wanted to make sure that this resolution on racism was given its proper due. We didn't feel like this week, today, that it was the right time for that. So we are moving that item to next week. So we will be tackling the resolution on racism then. And we are going to spend the bulk of our time today talking about bonuses. So at our last meeting 2 weeks ago, administration presented us with the bonuses paid to principals. And we, as the board, did not do a very good job of including in the agenda that evening the rationale behind those bonuses. That was shortcoming on our part. It was, and it's something that we feel like we need to take the time tonight to go back to discuss, to explain to the general public why it is that we afforded these bonuses to our school administrators and how they were calculated. And so with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Frigo to please come to the podium and present to us the information and kind of a deep dive into the principal bonus pool. And after Dr. Frigo's presentation, the board will discuss.
All right. All right. As President Nolan mentioned, we collaborated to develop a performance-based bonus system for our principals and administrative support personnel so we can reward high-level performance and create incentives for schools and other leaders to improve their performance in various areas aligned with overall school improvement. That's the overall intent of this bonus system. So I'm going to talk about the admin support bonus structure. First of all, we want to talk about who's eligible. As you can see here, there's an extensive list of employees throughout our district who can be nominated for the admin support bonus by a peer or colleague. It ranges everywhere from OT/PT assistants to network administrators and everything in between. So there's a large group of people that can qualify for these bonuses by doing great work for the district and serving others. They would be nominated for these admin support bonuses. The next group need to be nominated in 500 words or fewer and submitted to a cabinet member by December 18, 2020. And this nomination needs to describe how they create a positive academic work environment by building trust and camaraderie, by helping students or staff set or reach goals, and also while adhering to their normal job duty expectations. In addition, how are they building relationships, support the school district community? Do they establish and maintain a system of ongoing communication? Do they recognize school or district community needs and actively provide a course of action to address those needs? And do they engage in school or district community activities? Are they skilled at building relationships, and do they support school staff? Do they uphold the district's and school's mission and vision? And do they establish friendly relations with coworkers? And are they a team player? So those are our admin support bonus nomination requirements. And as you saw at the last board meeting, we had Kim Holva, who's our benefits coordinator, was awarded a bonus, and Stephanie Bales, our payroll supervisor, was awarded a bonus for their work in 2019 and 20. All right, we'll move to the principal's bonus structure. Again, we wanted to develop a performance-based bonus system for our school principals. All these metrics that were used are tied to specific district goals, aligned with overall student achievement, school improvement, and the district's strategic plan. And so here's the criteria for the principal's bonuses. They need to show measurable growth in several areas. We look at their participation on 5 essential survey, and depending on the percentage acquired and the number of average levels acquired, they're awarded a point value, whether it's 3, 2, or 1 point. In regards to staff retention, we've heard about that tonight, the importance of keeping staff here, and from the first day of school to the last day of school. And we're including long-term substitutes in this criteria. And so they get 3 points if it's 90 to 100% of the positions filled, 80 to 89, and then 70 to 79 would acquire 1 point in that criteria. Then we look at student discipline. So they get the most points if we see a decrease in total incidents by 10%, or in the highest subgroup in the building. 2 points if we see a 10% decrease in total incidents, and then a 5% decrease in incidents in the highest subgroup in regards to discipline. And then 1 point if there's a 10% reduction in total incidents in our building. Some additional criteria are their school designations. Again, 3 points if they're commendable or exemplary. 2 points if there's no more than 2 subgroups designated as underperforming in their building. And then 1 point if the school advances from lowest performing to underperforming. Also, we have student growth based on the 50th percentile growth target set for all grades, pre-K through 12. If 90 to 100% of the student growth targets are met, they get the 3 points value. If 80 to 89% of the student growth targets are met, they get 2 points. And then if 70 to 79% of the student growth targets are met, they get 1 point. Other factors include the evaluation of the principal, and the final decision and approval for each principal or building bonus is made by executive cabinet. We review these and we grant these bonuses in a collaborative effort with the entire cabinet. So as you saw at the last board meeting, the following buildings or people were given bonuses based on the criteria I just reviewed. We have Hope Academy in Stephen, Decatur, $500. Rob Prangy, our principal leader at Johns Hill, $750. Enterprise Montessori, $915. Carrie Hogue at Muffley, $1185. Julie Fain at American Dreamer STEM Academy, $1185. Garfield Montessori, $1,315. And then Dr. Amy Zahm, the principal at Eisenhower High School, received a $3,000 bonus for her work in meeting the criteria we just reviewed. So thank you for listening to that. I hope that helped people understand a little more what we were looking at in regards to those bonuses.
So Dr. Frigo, if you could stay at the podium for just a few minutes. For the audience, we can't see you. We can see the slides, but we can't see you at the podium. So we may have some questions. If you could stay there to address it until we're finished with our discussion, that would be helpful. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the board for any discussion or points of clarification from Dr. Frigo.
I'll start. I just want to say, first of all,
We'll go ahead and talk.
oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to say thanks for sharing that. I was pretty adamant this evening that I wanted those slides shown because I think that that is setting a precedent if we're going to continue down this road of bonuses, of what we need to provide to the community as far as rationale is concerned. And I know that one of the popular things out there right now is that there are no educators on the Board of Education, but I am one, been in education for a long time. I have a degree in vocal music education, and I teach every day at Millikan. And I know that this was said earlier by some of the educators who came to the podium, and that is that a bonus structure is not something that we have normally in the world of education. And I think because of that, the moment that it is started as a conversation topic, everyone's hairs stand on end. And so you're already sort of fighting a losing battle. And then when you don't provide the rationale and the rubric, like we just saw in those slides, it makes things 10 times worse. So I just want to say that I get it. I get that it's not the norm, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And that's why we're having the discussion tonight. So as an educator, I just wanted to throw that out as we start down this path.
Thank you, Beth. Reverend Carson, did you have something to say?
I do. Before I ask the question, Dr. Frigo, I just want to say that I hear the hearts of so many individuals that spoke earlier, and I just want to say that we are living in tough times and we have difficult days ahead, but we will get through this together. That letter Melissa wrote from those babies touched my heart, and from everybody else, and to our teachers, you are the backbone of society, and without your work, none of us would be here. You contribute to shaping our nation, not just education. Dr. Frigo, you believe in those particular bonuses? You agree with those bonuses?
Yes, I think it's a very clear criteria that people will now understand and work towards to achieve, whether they're admin support folks or our principals.
How come, why, is there a reason why teachers aren't on this particular bonus list? And only principals? And why aren't teachers there? I believe.
The way I understand it, and Mr. Braun can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is that would be something we would collectively bargain, we would negotiate with our teacher group as part of either contract negotiations or negotiations that are ongoing. If I'm incorrect, Mr. Braun, please correct me.
You're correct.
All right. Then, are you going to present the rationale for the $30,000?
I think that, oh, I'm sorry.
I don't believe so.
Why not?
I think, Courtney, if I can interrupt, I have one question about, before we move on to Mr. Dace's bonus, I had one question for Dr. Frigo about the principal bonus, and then I was gonna maybe start the conversation about Mr. Dace's proposed bonus, if that's okay.
That's okay. Okay, I got one more question. And did admin know that the standards ahead of time?
Not on this one, they do know now moving forward.
Dr. Frigo, I just had a quick question before I move on to Mr. Dace's proposed compensation. With respect to the principal salaries, I had this question when I initially looked at the slide, and I was hoping that you might be able to touch on it for those in the audience who might also have a question about it. Can you explain why some of the buildings received a bonus versus why some individual principals received a bonus?
That is, as we looked at the criteria, the final decision was done by executive cabinet based on a variety of factors to determine whether or not a building or person would get that. It's related to partially evaluations, partially other criteria.
Okay, so that's a discretionary factor for UC?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Hey, before you start, Reagan, I have a, I don't know if it's a question or it's a comment, but it's kind of piggybacking on what Creighton talked about this kind of a payment not being the norm in an educational environment or feeling comfortable. And so for me, I look, so I want to preface all this by saying, since I joined the board over 3 years ago, I've pushed for this at every level. I said at the end of last board meeting, my goal would be that every single group has some kind of incentive option built in. Interestingly enough, if you go back and read the comments, there were comments from just about every group in the district saying they would be excited about having that kind of an option. So all from a good place, right? Like I think what Beth said is absolutely true. It makes people bristle. It makes them feel uncomfortable. But it's not about saying that somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do. It's about recognizing and rewarding people who are kind of going that above and beyond piece. And we don't necessarily call it a bonus, but we do have places throughout the district where we incentivize things differently based on education, based on what the marketplace could pay for those careers. We do that, and it's not something that's that's why I think it's a little bit different. You almost have to operationally define what do you mean by a bonus, what do you mean by an incentive, what do you mean by a stipend. All those things kind of have different meanings, but we do it. It's not unheard of. So I want us to get to a place where we embrace this idea from the place of really all of the people and all of the things that were said during public participation about how great the teachers are and about how amazing they've been through all of this. 100% agree. Absolutely, there's no question about it. And so it's wanting to be able to acknowledge that good work all the time. So all from a place of goodness. I want to say that. And I want to say that I feel really strongly about that. And I hope that if anything that can come out of all of this is a real effort among all of the work groups to come together and figure out a way to advance this. I know that these dollar amounts seem large, and they are large, but I think the work that's being done at all levels is important, and it would do my heart good to be able to give some of these dollars away next year to teachers, principals, custodians, all the groups that are a part of making their school and the district, taking it to the next level, getting those growth goals tackled and checked off. So I think I've beat that to death, and so I just want to make sure that it wasn't Beth Nolan who brought it forward. It wasn't Courtney Carson. It wasn't Ray. I will take 100%, and I will own pushing for this because I think it's important. But I also have to say that it definitely came from a place of goodness.
So Kendall, I'm going to jump in here and again, Brandon, before you move on to the second topic.
I think Courtney had something else to say.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's important that we do something regarding giving a level of bonus, but at this particular point in time, while we're in a pandemic, does this help the morale or the mental health of our entire body of the entire District 61? That's my concern.
I think it depends on what the goal is, right? Like, I am like, we have two girls.
Shouldn't be getting a bonus.
We have two girls that are in the school district right now. One, this is totally her jam, what's going on with the pandemic. She doesn't really want to be with people, so she's loving it. We have another one that is really struggling. So 100% of what's being said about students at all levels is really true. There are teachers and there are administrators and there are people at all levels that are going above and beyond right now, for sure. So I think that all of that has potential to be recognized at some point in time. If we don't feel like it's now, okay. But if we do, at some point, move beyond this and want to look at those kinds of incentives for all groups, I think it's something we should consider.
I get you. I just think that we should look at a level of equity when considering these bonuses. That's it. For a morale, and giving certain bonuses, certain people and other individuals are left out during the pandemic, is, to me, is not the correct thing to do. But however, let's move forward.
I hear you, Courtney. I hear you.
So I'm going to add to that, if you don't mind, just a perspective from a finance lens. So Kendall, while I'm going to let you take ownership of bringing this forward, I am certainly on board, and I come from a corporate environment where I also participate in a bonus structure, as does my staff. And while we lay out the criteria for what that bonus is at the beginning of the year and we budget for it, if the revenue isn't there at some point in time during the year, the bonus doesn't happen. So when folks are saying like, well, you know, this is tough times and what happens if the state doesn't come through with the revenue, this is completely discretionary. And while we can have the best intentions and really want to be able to reward the good work for our people, regardless of if it's now or 3 years from now, we also are, you know, we're in control of releasing the funds. And if the funds aren't there to release and we're in a budget deficit situation or we're having to come back in and cut programs, bonuses are usually the first things to go. So I want to make sure that the general public understands that while we have budgeted for this, and in this case we have awarded these principal budget bonuses, it is not a guarantee, and we are mindful of the fiscal nature of it. Okay, Reagan, now it's your turn.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before I switch to Mr. D specifically, and I know that that's really what people want to hear about, but I also want to say that I do think that bonuses can work, or whatever we want to call them, some sort of financial incentive or you know, reward for people's commitment to our district can benefit us. You know, after the meeting 2 weeks ago, I did see a lot of comments from people just saying, hey, you know, the people that I think should be getting this aren't in Kyle, they're in the buildings, they're the ones that are, you know, with the kids every day. And you know, I echoed Kendall when she brought this up last week, and I do think that that's important. And I am in favor of that as well. I do understand what Mr. Miller, Mr. Sugar, and what other people have expressed about whether or not that can work. And all I can say is that I hope that everybody thinks it's worth exploring. And I do understand that that takes communication, and that takes collaboration, and that takes an open mind and a plan. And I hope that as this discussion progresses this evening, that everybody can kind of see where the board's at, and hopefully we can kind of see if there's an opportunity there for everybody. And if there is, that's great. And if not, let's see how we can pivot and what else we can do to help ensure that we're boosting morale across the board, across the district for everybody. So that is just something that I have jotted down to add to the conversation. But I do also want to focus some time on the personnel item regarding Mr. Dace's proposed bonus that was placed on the agenda. And I jotted some things down in advance of this to go through. I've added a couple of things as we've been listening to public comment, so I appreciate my board colleagues kind of sticking through this with me as I kind of work through it. So what I would like to say is that the bonus for Mr. Dace was placed on the agenda prematurely and without being fully considered and vetted by the board. And I, along with, I believe with most or all of my colleagues, take full responsibility for this. It was sloppy to have it on there before we fully considered it. And regrettably, it has caused unnecessary and avoidable angst within our district and our community at large. It is not lost on me how it makes people feel that we had nearly an hour and a half of public comment 2 weeks ago, and then this on the agenda 2 weeks later. So I guess as I move forward, people will know where I'm gonna land on this in a couple minutes when we vote. What troubles me most about this item being on the agenda is that we, as a board, have undermined Mr. Dace with our carelessness and being too quick to pull the trigger. What I want, and what I've expressed or tried to express before in open session, what I want is for Mr. Dace to be able to build his team and to establish a rapport with his DPS colleagues. So that we can continue our important work and so that everyone can end their days feeling accomplished and proud of the work they've done because they're working together toward a common goal, one that they can all become committed to together. And my hope is that my board colleagues can join me in being vulnerable and discussing this a little bit openly. I've been discouraged by the difficulties and obstacles I've observed between Mr. Dace and his DPS colleagues since he arrived. And I have been holding up. I always am anytime I see or get positive feedback, it makes me so happy because I think we're moving in the right direction. And this setback, I think, puts another obstacle or impediment, another barrier between Mr. Dace and the people that he needs to be working with every day to do his job and to help them do their job the best way they can. And this setback, I think, should fall squarely on our shoulders and should not fall on Mr. Dace. So I personally, want to apologize to Mr. Dace and Dr. Frigo and the DPS community for this mistake and for this being placed on the agenda before we were ready for it to be on the agenda, before it had been fully vetted. I don't know what the end result ultimately would have been if we fully looked at it, but what I know is that it's, we've heard you, we've listened, we're trying to do the right thing here. And so, that's sort of, I guess, my beginning, or I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything. That's just sort of where I'm landing on this, that I think that it makes everybody look bad, unfortunately, and it's caused a lot of people unnecessarily to get really upset about this. And but more than that, it's upsetting to me that I feel responsible for putting another obstacle in Mr. Dace's way, when what I really want Mr. Dace to focus on is the work that we want him to do, and to be able to work with the people that can get it done, really. So that's my piece for now.
Thanks, Reagan.
Are we pulling the motion?
Well, I think we need to continue with our board discussion. Does anyone else have anything to say about this matter?
I'll speak up. I do support the idea of performance-based pay, but it has to lend itself to the culture. And right now, the culture is not good in this district. I support Jeff Dace and his efforts to improve student learning, but right now, the pressure, the tension in the district is untenable, and this bonus is doing nothing but ramping it up.
I want to add, several of the comments were about us and about our challenges in creating the culture. And so I think that, Reagan, you alluded to this, and we have to own that. And there are certain things that were talked about, specifics that were talked about, that are directives we've given, and we haven't necessarily given a lot of background to why. And so I think we need to take a inventory of those things that are sitting out there that people maybe don't understand, and providing some additional information behind them. They're not made from a place to make anyone miserable. I am one of the board members who worked at the district. That's not my goal. My goal is not to make people miserable. I have a lot of friends in every work group that there is. My goal is not to make people miserable. So if our decisions are directly making people miserable, I think we've got to own some of that and explain it. That doesn't mean we're going to be able to change everything. I think what we would ask is the grace and understanding from our folks that sometimes we're making decisions based on a whole lot of information that isn't necessarily available for public consumption around things around personnel that we can't discuss. It's not because we're trying to hide it. It's not because it's a secret. It's because we're not supposed to talk about it. Brian Braun lets us know when those things are happening. So I think we do need to take inventory. I think we need to work with our union leaders to find out what are those things that are really giving you heartburn that sit out there. Apparently, Brian, your being at the meetings or your need to be at the meetings is causing a lot of heartburn for people, and I think we just need to give some context to why we're asking that. And I think that will help, because I feel like maybe Jeff is taking a lot of the heat for us a little bit, and we need to help alleviate what we can alleviate. Jeff can earn his heat. We don't need to help. So I would challenge us to also try to make that happen. I also want to be really, I also want us to be really honest about the things that are happening around people leaving the district. Now, I don't want one person to leave the district, let alone hordes of people. But I asked some questions because I really want to know what the numbers are. I know when you're in a building and you have more people leaving than maybe another building, and it seems really, it's a big deal, right? So I'm going to ask our HR folks to provide some of that information out to people so we all have a real picture of what that looks like. We have vacancy challenges, there is no question about that, but they've actually gotten better, a lot better. And so I think that's a good thing. And I think we want to talk about those kinds of successes because that's the work at all levels. That's people talking about our kids, loving to be with our kids, loving the work that they do. And all of that counts. But I think we also need to give some real information to people so that they have it.
Rev, you want to talk?
You know, I don't like to talk too much, but I'm just, Dr. Frigo, I wasn't at the last board meeting, so I'm curious to know, how did this come about, Dr. Frigo? How are you presenting this to us, and the rationale behind it? That's my concern. And if there's more conversation, we can talk about it. But I'm willing to let's vote on this thing so we can move forward with our lives.
I don't think everyone has quite had their opportunity to say their due, so we're not quite ready yet. So I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Creighton, see if she has something else to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to go off of what Kendall and Reagan said, and we run for this office, we get elected, and so in that spirit, I am part of what we do is take the heat for decisions that we've made, right? And in this case, we're taking the heat for a decision we haven't yet made, and that's okay. That's why we're here. And I do want to say, I think there were 28 public participation, and -1, I felt like everybody really stuck to the issues. On social media, it's not quite like that. And while I appreciate that, Mr. Dace took some heat this week, President Nolan did as well, on some really terrible personal rumors that were put out there by people who are just hateful. And that is unacceptable. We will take the heat all day for decisions that we make, but if you want to come and talk to us about the issues, great. If you send me an email that talks about lies and drama that is unnecessary and only hinders the work that we are doing, you will get a response from me. And it won't be the kind response that I normally send when people reach out to me as a board member. So that's moving forward. We are happy to take the heat and have conversations. And I appreciate everyone who spoke tonight and stuck to the issues. So thank you for calling us to the carpet, and we'll continue to be here. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I would challenge our DPS family to acknowledge anybody that's part of our DPS family that might be spreading those rumors around, and encourage them to get focused on what's important.
Okay, Courtney, do you have anything else to say?
I motion that we hand it over to Ray.
Wait a minute. Dan, did you get to say anything?
I've been back listening. I can't argue with any of the comments. For anybody that's out there that's thinking about running, this is so much fun. I mean, we make mistakes like everybody else. If you're unhappy, run. The majority of the people that get really nasty don't, because they don't want to put up with the heat. But I think the decision that was made and is going to be made is the proper one at this time. But I do think there's room to look at in the future to make things a little bit more equitable across the board.
All right. With that, we are going to move on to roll call action items.
President Nolan, I would like to move to pull the compensation recommendation for Jeffrey Dace to be voted on separately from the personnel action items.
We have a second to pull that item. Any discussion about that, about pulling the item to vote on separately? Melissa, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Oakes?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Aye.
Ms. Nolan?
Aye.
And Mrs. Creighton?
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nay.
So do we
Motion
have?
carried.
Okay, all right. So are we, Melissa and Counselor, are we voting on the personnel action item, the front items to begin with, without the standalone item first? Or are we going to vote on the standalone item first?
Your pleasure.
I think we go ahead and vote on the standalone item first, as it's right there queued up. So with that,
A motion that we vote on the standalone item first.
and that is the bonus for Mr. Dace, correct?
Yes.
I don't think you need a vote to vote on that item first. Somebody needs to make a motion either to pay the bonus or to approve the bonus for Mr. Dace. I think that's the way to phrase it.
Make a motion to approve the bonus.
Okay.
Is that what you have to do?
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine. Yeah. Second.
Ian, is that a second? Somebody second?
I didn't hear what Courtney said.
That I make the motion to approve the bonus
Okay, thank you.
For Mr. Dace.
for Mr. Dace.
And we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, any discussion prior to this? Melissa, please call the roll.
Mr. Oakes?
No.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mrs. Lewis?
No.
Ms. Nolan?
No.
Mrs. Creighton?
No.
Mr. Carson?
No.
And Mrs. Briscoe?
No.
0 aye, 7 no. 9 nay. Nay.
Okay, so we will
Motion
now move
carried.
on.
Motion defeated.
Motion defeated. Sorry, I don't say that very often. We'll now move on to the rest of the personnel action items as listed in the memo by Deanne Hellman.
I recommend the board approve the remaining personnel action items listed in the memo from Deanne Hellman, Director of Human Resources, as presented.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Ms. Nolan? Mrs. Briscoe?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Oates?
Aye.
Mrs. Creighton?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
That's no.
No, this is the rest of personnel action item, Courtney.
Mr. Carson?
Sorry. Yes. My
7 ayes, 0 nay.
Motion carried. Do we have a recommendation for the memorandum of understanding